Hi, welcome to Change Agent Careers. I'm Coach Wendy, and I'm going to continue on the career branding series with a video today to take you on the next step of your journey to create your career brand. I've already covered why creating your career brand is important, and I've already touched on with part 2 how to get started on identifying your career brand. So today what I'm going to do is talk to you a little bit more about the next step in the process of creating your career brand, and that's actually writing your story or crafting your foundational story. This is a story that is going to be used across many different mediums. It can be used online. It can be used in cover letters, on resumes. It can be used when you're talking to people, when you're networking and you're doing your elevator pitch. It can be used on social media platforms. So this is really the foundational message from which all other messages will derive. So let's get started. When I talk about career branding and the career story, really what I mean is you have to have a holistic story. Your career story needs to do a couple of things. It has to give people an idea of where you've come from, what your past, your experience and your background is, but it also has to bring them up to speed and tell them about what's going on currently, and then also what your future goals and aspirations are. So how do we do that? Well, we think linearly, therefore, when we tell our story, we want to tell it in a linear fashion as well, because that's how our brains process information, at least most of us. There's always the exception. Okay, so let me look at my notes here and make sure I do this in the right order. Okay, first we want to start by giving a holistic overview of our career background. So this, again, this is the past, and when we talk about our past, we want to, we want to allude to some of the industries that we've worked in. We want to discuss notable projects that we've worked on, particularly proud achievements or accomplishments, maybe awards that we've received, things like that. Remember in part 2, I used the word relevant quite frequently. This is where the word relevant really comes into play. When you're talking about your career story, when you're telling your career story, you want to make sure that the information that you're sharing, again, is relevant to the listener. So a saying that I like to use a lot when I'm working with clients and when I'm coaching is to dance according to the music being played. And I'll explain what that means in a moment. But really, the important thing to remember is you have to craft your story and tell a story that relates to the audience that you're speaking to. That's really what I mean by dance according to the music being played. I'll get to that in a moment. Okay. In addition to notable projects, industries you've worked in, again, from a holistic perspective, this is where you get a chance to associate yourself with other maybe household or name brands. For instance, if you've worked in Fortune 50 organizations or Fortune 100 or Fortune 5000, whatever the number is, make sure that you drop that name or drop that label or that brand into your story. If you've worked for specific brand names such as Dell or Rolex or Apple or Google, right? Big names that are recognizable, that have a very strong brand presence. It's okay to use those if it's in fact true that you do have experience with those organizations. Even if they were vendors or you were in collaboration, if you've worked with those entities, worked with those organizations, it's okay to include that in part of your career history and in your career story. Because again, that gives people a hook, and it shows what your abilities are, right? If you've worked in large organizations and you are pursuing large organizations in your future, then it shows that you have the capability to navigate the bureaucracy and the large organization politics. Okay, next what you want to do is you want to bring them up to speed to the present and talk about, still talking a little bit about your past, but illustrate and demonstrate that you have mastery of relevant skills that may be important to the audience, listener, the reader, whatever the case may be. So what you want to do here is, now that you've completed your career inventory and you've really got a strong basis for what those skills are and the skills that you like using, pick the top 2 or 3 that may be useful or valuable or interesting, especially if you're in job search or if you're positioning for a promotion, let's say. Pick the top 2 or 3 that are really important to that role and tell a story or 2, one for each skill, to demonstrate how you've mastered that particular competency. And make sure, of course, that you allude to the result. You know, not just what the duties and responsibilities were, not just what the actions were that you took, not just what the steps were that you were engaged in, but remember to follow through and talk about the results. What was achieved? What did you accomplish? What were the significant results of those actions that demonstrate that you have mastery of those skills? And then next, you want to make sure that, again, your statements are achievement oriented and not duty and responsibility oriented, right? Demonstrating that you actually have the mastery is really critical. And then finally, you have to wrap up your career story by talking about the future, not just talking about the past, but you want to make a skillful merge of your past accomplishments, the skills that you've demonstrated that you have, and then your future capabilities and what you're positioning for moving forward. So that wraps up our video today on how to tell a career story. Go ahead and take what you've learned and begin to write that foundational message. Remember, as a foundational message, when I mentioned a moment ago, dance according to the music being played, this is the foundational message that you want to refer back to when you are out talking to people, when you're submitting cover letters and resumes, when you're creating social media platforms. What that means is you have to be able to tell this story or some version of it many different ways across many different platforms. But the overall theme, the overall message, the overall reputation, and the overall feeling that you want to leave someone remembering is going to be the same across all of those different platforms. So you basically are learning how to tell the same story different ways each time. It's not a copy and paste. You don't want to create this foundational message and then just copy and paste it across all of these different mediums. You have to learn how to convey the same message using different verbiage and different vernacular each time. You have to learn how to tell it quickly in 15 to 30 seconds, and then you have to be able to tell it in an interview scenario, maybe where you have 1 to 2 minutes to tell someone more detail. So that's it. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. You can find my website at changeagentcareers.com. You can subscribe to my blog. I post a blog every week, and you can subscribe to my YouTube channel right here by pushing the subscribe channel right below this video. I appreciate you stopping by. Thanks so much, and stay tuned for the next in the multi-part series, Career Branding. Have an awesome, successful day.